So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this channel or finish off this live stream with just kind of doing the this understanding of the completing the square, just a little bit different than one of the things I've been looking at, because a lot of times I would get into completing the square with this b divided by 2, this whole idea of this converting to the vertex form for the students, because that's basically we used it, and it was one of those techniques that it would use, but it wasn't as common. Typically when we're solving usually quadratic form, it would be a little bit easier, and students always just kind of forgot about the b divided by 2 squared, and obviously for some problems that's very helpful to remember, especially when you get into some more complicated ones. But in the same respect, it's not something that I think for a lot of the completing the square problems that you can that really you necessarily need to always remember. So case in point here, let's just kind of go through these two trinomials, right? These two trinomials are what we call perfect square trinomials. And if I'm just going to go ahead and factor this is going to be x plus 1 times x plus 1, which can be written as x plus 1 squared, right? And for this one, it's going to be x minus 1 times x minus 1, which is s minus 1 squared, okay? So these perfect square trinomials, as factored, you can see the factors are the same, are going to produce this binomial squared. Very important. That's very helpful if you're solving a quadratic, or if you're trying to find something in the vertex form, for instance. So one of the things is, if you can see, this is not factorable, right? So we can't factor this. This is not a perfect square trinomial like these two. And then if we're just going to be factoring these in case, we have x squared plus 2x plus 2. There's no two numbers that multiply to give you 2, add to give you 2, right? So one thing though, if our goal is actually to rewrite this as a perfect square trinomial, I recognize this x plus 2x is the same as over there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to create that perfect square trinomial. I'm basically just going to add the 1. Now, obviously I don't have an equation here, so you can kind of go by that game. But basically the idea is, like, if my whole goal is to create this binomial squared, then if I already have x plus 2x, I'm just going to go ahead and create that. Now again, in the form of the b divided by 2 squared, that's going to be 2 divided by 2 squared, which equals 1. And that's basically where this 1 comes from. But again, a lot of students have just always forgot it. They always confuse it. They make mistakes. So I've kind of changed my ways a little bit. And so what I basically said is, like, forget about this constant here. If I have this x squared plus 2x, right? Basically understand, I want to create this as a perfect square trinomial. So therefore, I recognize that x squared plus 2x plus 1 is the perfect square trinomial. I'm just going to add 1. But again, like an expression, guys, if we're just going to add 1, that's going to obviously change the value of the expression, especially if we had something as an equation, that's going to change the equation. So therefore, we just need to make sure we subtract the 1 on the outside to keep everything, kind of honest here. And then we still have that plus 2. Well, now we can factor that to a binomial squared, x plus 1 squared, which we already knew. And then we can just simplify that to a negative 1 plus 1.